Welcome back to Advisor Marketing Explained, where we dive into the world of financial advisor marketing, sharing insights, tips, and actionable strategies to help you grow your brand and business. I'm your host, Alex Lerch, and I'm excited today to be joined by Lindsay Dowrick. Lindsay is the founder of The Video Artists and a lifelong video creator. How are we doing today, Lindsay?
Doing great. Yeah. I'm
Awesome.
excited to dive into it. There's a ton of stuff we can talk about.
Yeah, and I'm excited to share with some of the financial advisors listening today some of the things that you know about video. You and I have worked together on quite a few projects, collaborated on some things. I think you have a perspective on video, how to use it, how to create it in kind of this more modern environment where you can share with some advisors that may be a little hesitant. They may realize they need to do some video, not sure how to, where to start, what kind of content to do, how to create it, how to film it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. One of the things I want to start with before we jump into it, Lindsay, is I shared something yesterday, an article about attention span, right? So I'm going to read this really quick. So studies have shown that the average attention span of a human being is down from 12 seconds in the year 2000 to 8 seconds in the year 2013 to 6 seconds in the year 2019. That is way less than the 9-second attention span of your average goldfish. So, just in the last 13 years alone, or I guess 23 years alone, I should say, our attention span has cut in half, and it's scientifically been proven to be less than the average goldfish. So the reason I'm pointing that out, and it's important, is when we're talking about marketing, you have 6 seconds. You have 6 seconds to get your message through, and you have to figure out how are we going to do that. Are you going to be able to do that with written content? Probably not, right? So that's why video is so important, and especially a lot of the video that you create with being short form, impactful, and then the places that you're putting it.
I think with what you just said, it kind of reminds me of this one stat I saw too that said you remember 95% of a message that's through video versus through text. And when you think about creating the same piece of content, it's like, how can you make the mileage go like way more effective and way faster, right? And I feel like with that stat alone, it just shows how important it is to have like messaging that sticks. But when you do it through video, it's way more powerful.
Right. So you do this for a living. You've been making videos since you were 13. You started, and you come from a generation that was able to do that and really dive into and buy into video creation and how important it is. And you've kind of grown up with video being a main element of how you're going to be able to tell your story. So we have a lot of advisors that are thinking out there, well, what do you mean by video? What do you want me to create? Do you want me to give a market report? Am I sharing the latest economic news? But I think your philosophy on this is a little different. What you really want to start with is coming from a storytelling standpoint on the video that you're creating.
I think at the end of the day, when you look at advisor marketing, there's a definitive need for like a personal brand when you really think about it. And when you think about personal brand, that comes down to connection and trust, because like there's so many people giving out information or like market updates and things like that. But the thing that's going to set you apart is the fact that like we know that you care and that like you are someone to be trusted. And that comes through your personality and who you are more than anything.
Yeah, Lindsay, we like to speak with advisors. We have what we kind of call our 5 pillars of marketing. The first 3 are know, like, and trust, right? And then the others are prove and understand. So, with any content you're doing, we want to try and hit at least on one of those 5 pillars. Sometimes you can do multiple. I think when you're able to create some video that is personal to you and tells a little bit about your story and your philosophy and what you believe in, and maybe the process and culture of your firm, it lets people learn about you in a really quick way and fashion.
Mhm. The thing that comes down to trust, really, with that is like lessening the risk of working with you. So, like, if we even take like Seth's brand story video that we did together, like it showed how he cares through his own personal experience with his mom, and financial
You're
advisor.
referencing a video we recently worked on together, and I think, one of the what powerful elements of it is the way it opened, which is speaks to a story, right? In this case, it was an advisor who had, lost his father earlier in life, and how that
Mhm.
situation impacted his philosophy on financial planning, right? Because he learned a lot of things after that as they met with his mother's current financial planner, and some of the things that were like a barrier of frustration, and he learned going forward, if this is what I want to do for my life, this is the industry I want to be in, here's how I'm going to do it a little bit differently than the experience I had. And Lindsay, for a lot of advisors, that may be like a little bit of an uncomfortable process or thought to do that, to create a video that looks inside you a little bit more and is a little personal in it. I know one of the things that you do, and as we're talking about video, and like, we're going to get a little bit of the process of how you create it, and when you create it and what you want to do
Mhm.
to get your content, having someone that can help you guide you through a story, like interview you. And I know, Lindsay, you like to call it like almost like a conversational interview. It almost be like what we're doing now. We're having a podcast and we're having a conversation, right?
Right. I feel like it's so effective to get the true essence of somebody. Even if you're trying to record video by yourself, if you can literally have a coworker or someone else that you trust, even a friend, film with you and you speak to them. I do that with my boyfriend all the time. Like, I do that for my own content because it's hard to, as if you're talking to a human and not just like a lens or a phone. That there's other people on this other side of it, and sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lindsay. And if you're trying to make video just speaking to the camera in a private room, you may think in your head, well, I want to do this in private because it's a little nerve-wracking. But at the end of the day, you're creating video that you want to get in front of as many people as possible. So the irony is, why do you feel like you need to tell your story in private when, the suggestion you made is have somebody you trust, whether it's a coworker or a friend or a family member or a spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever it is, have them ask you questions, come up with the questions that make sense to you, that allow you to get out the information you want to get out, have them ask you and just talk to them, and you're going to set the camera up efficiently. You're going to figure out how to do that. But the goal is you want to have a conversation and talk to people about what you do. Think about when you sit down with a client in an annual meeting, and the conversations you have with them, the tips that you're giving them, the things that you're discussing with them about, their upcoming retirement, or they have new children and they're trying to save or buy that second home, and you're just talking about what that process is like and what's important. That's what you want to convey in your videos. You want to convey what you would convey right to a client.
Mm-hmm. I I love that because it's just taking conversations that you have with your clients or questions they're asking in consults or meetings or phone calls, taking that and just talking about it. Thing you could do.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit here about kind of the essence of the psychology of, okay, getting comfortable creating videos, and also kind of the direction, right? So thinking less about the technical elements of my industry and what we do, and more about get to know and understand who we are. So now there's, okay, what type of video should we be creating? And then let's look at the landscape of the platforms you put it on now, right? So there's YouTube and there's Facebook and there's Instagram and all these new platforms that advisors can use. But within those platforms, there's formats of video that are more important now, right? And Lindsay, you know these a little bit better than I do, but there's short form videos on YouTube. There's shorts, there's short term videos on Instagram and Facebook, Reels, stories, and it's content that is going to affect the algorithm for these social media platforms differently. So it's important when you're making videos that you focus on these things.
I will say there's a difference between short form and long form. Um, Short form is definitely more attraction and awareness based, but it can really nurture and convert people from my own experience too. But long form is more, definitely more deeper relationships, more warm leads. Like you're talking about website videos, you're talking about podcasts, you're deepening the relationship on all, like a somebody for 30 minutes on a podcast, listening to them, versus just a quick little bit of a client that retired in Aruba and talking about their story.
Yeah, and like a good example, Lindsay, is you and I talking now with the idea of this becoming a podcast, but then also a longer form video that somebody could consume on YouTube or wherever we want to place it. But we may say something over the course of this video in that 30 to 60-second time frame that is really interesting or engaging. And that's what they become. Hey, let's pull that and let's use that in a short form element. So, and you mentioned it's more about where you use that content. So long form video, and let's say you're going to do a kind of like, Lindsay, I know we like to call it like a brand story. So a story about your firm. And where are you going to place that? That's going to be front and center in your website. You want people to find that when they go there. You may use it, you may attach it to your email signature at the bottom and use it in a place like that. It may be something that you put in your email marketing, or you send out to clients, or even like a welcome email to new clients saying, hey, this video shares a little bit about who we are. Or even, you'd pin it to the top of some of your social platforms so that when people visit your pages, it's one of the first things that they would see.
Mm-hmm. I would say with short form and long form video, there's also offensive and defensive videos. So defensive is like the brand story videos that you put on your website that are when people discover you and they're like really contemplating a buying decision, versus offensive is more of the short form, some Instagram reels, TikToks, YouTube shorts, that sort of thing that can help you get in front of more people and kind of that relationship over time.
Yeah. So I want to get into this a little bit, Lindsay. So someone's interested in doing video.
Mm.
There's a lot of directions to go. So you've now convinced yourself, hey, I need video for my firm. I need to figure out how to do it. Suggestions. If someone was going to start video, let's assume at first they want to just try to do a little bit for themselves. Dabble in it, get a feel for it, and try it out. What are some of the suggestions that you give someone to start? What are maybe the first 2 or 3 things that you would recommend that they do?
I would say to one, always have the customer at the forefront of your content. When you're speaking about anything, always ask yourself, like, what is in it for them and why is this important to them? Because you can just educate everywhere, but if they don't know why that matters to them, or they don't know how they can even apply something, like there's so many things to it. But I would say first, always keep the client at the forefront. And then the other thing is always the hook. The hook is the first 3 seconds. You want to intrigue people with either emotion or curiosity or saying a question. Because if people can't stop the scroll, they're not going to see everything else.
I want to talk a little bit about the hook, Lindsay, because I think that's interesting. And I think, as that's important because of how the algorithms work, right? How long people watch a video or stay on it versus not will impact how viral it may go organically, right? So you mentioned a few I thought were really interesting. Start with a question, maybe start with a strong statement, or something maybe that's a little bit unique, teaser to what you're going to say through the rest of the video. I think that's a key for people. And I think when you're creating your videos, you have to think about those things as maybe, hey, what are good hooks? And then I can create the content, right? Maybe sometimes rather than vice versa, right? And a lot of that's just sitting down and saying, what are some of the most common pain points that we see with clients? Like our most common questions. And then maybe what's a more clever way for us kind of to ask that question or say it in a unique way, and then maybe start from there and then work back to think about what you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. It's always thinking of how you can just get people to stop and care about whatever you're going to say. Um, and it's always often overlooked. A lot of people will just want to say, "Hi, my name's Lindsay and I'm from here," and but your customers don't initially care about that, at least when it comes to short form.
So let's talk about, and Lindsay, you create a lot of videos, and your work obviously is fantastic, and your ability to work one-on-one with a lot of different industries, but just what I've seen with financial advisors is, as good as I've seen, and helping people get comfortable, which is a key part about videos. But there are people out there that may try to do some things themselves. So what would you say? What are some of the key mistakes or issues that you would see, looking at video all day and seeing people try to do it, versus someone like yourself who kind of knows how to get started?
Are we talking in terms of short form or like hiring a professional?
So I would say people that think they can do it themselves, but they make fatal flaws. What you think those fatal flaws typically are.
I would say first and foremost, introducing themselves in the first 5 seconds versus getting right into the meat and potatoes of it. The second thing is not being clear and using a lot of jargon, especially with finances. You could go really one way real
Just trying
quick.
to outsmart yourself a little bit in your videos.
And I'm a huge proponent for like simple sells. And that when you confuse people, you lose people. So you almost want to talk as if nobody understands this and you're talking to almost like a fifth grader could repeat back what you said.
Yeah. And those are good ones. And I want to kind of parlay that a little bit into, if you're interested in doing this, like, so if you're listening to this and you're saying, hey, I understand it's a need, we have to create video. What I'll say is, Lindsay, you're fantastic. I would recommend anybody that's listening to this should talk to you and work with you. But, we have a lot of national clients, and, Lindsay's in the Philadelphia region, and her work is fantastic. But, don't be afraid to go get some professional help, at least to start, because your goal should be, you want to create content that's impactful. And then it's going to stand the test of time. You may create a brand video that could be on your website for several years and be seen thousands of times. So what I would say is, don't be afraid to go out and find someone that can help you do this at a high level. What I would say is, and we'll share some, at the bottom of this podcast on YouTube, and then also in our feed, we'll share a couple examples of stuff that Lindsay's done and some work that she's done. But what I would say is, if worst case, find some stuff that you think is good that you can emulate, and make sure when you go hire someone, say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. This is the type of video that I want to create. This is my goal. And the reason I say that is, Lindsay, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of creators out there, but they all have a different style. So if you have a good feel or good vibe for what you want to get created and how you want to portray yourself, what I would say is, have samples. If you're going to go hire a professional, say, here's what I'm looking to do. Is this in your style? Is this something you're comfortable doing? Are you comfortable sitting down and having a conversational interview with me and getting the best content out of that? Go find someone that's a good fit for you, someone that you like spending time with, because as Lindsay will tell you, most shoots are all day. Most shoots are all day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I will say too, if you initially hire somebody just to get the ball rolling, you'll end up learning a lot in the process too of how to film your own content and what to focus on and what's important. And oh, I should talk about more client stories. There's You can learn so much just from one filming experience too. So it's kind of like killing two birds with one stone. And you're not just hiring it out, but you're learning a lot as well.
Right. So again, keep those tips in mind. I think those things are really important. I hope people that are listening, what you can take away from this is that, what we really hit on is that the attention span is changing, right? And you need to start thinking about your marketing in terms of how can I break through that first 6 seconds? And while there may be a few different ways to do it, you and I both inevitably believe that video is going to be the way, both now and in the future, to best do that. So make sure you're at least thinking about how can I integrate a marketing strategy or integrate a video marketing strategy into what I'm doing. How can I find the right people to help me? How can I ask the right questions? And then I think one of the key things we talked about, Lindsay, is how do you find that hook to videos when you're creating them? So, things to think about: find someone that can help you professionally, find someone that understands the different formats for the different social platforms and how to best use them, right?
I'd also say when you're looking to hire somebody to do your content or to do your marketing or your videos or anything, they need to understand your brand as a whole too, and they need to know marketing and other things too. It's not just video, it's not just a blog post, it's sales psychology.
Yeah, and I love that point, Lindsay. There's a skill set which is video creation, and that's art. That's an art skill, right? But there's a subset of marketers that can do both. Video creators that also understand the platforms and how to use them and what's going to make content work and how to strategically time it and when to place it and how to use it. So what you really need is you need a little bit of all those things. Some of these things you can self-educate, but do not be afraid if you're going to take on a project like this to go get somebody to help you do it right.
Mm-hmm. And there's value in seeing your business objectively too. We're so inside of it, you can't see like outside of the jar even of what your customers actually want from you. So it's super helpful having that outside perspective.
Yeah, third eye. Your creator can be your third eye or your outside view. I think that's an awesome point.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay, I appreciate having you on today. Anything else you want to share video wise, or anything that you're thinking or what you're seeing from the future in video, or just like tidbits that you're thinking about now?
I think if you're trying to stand out and you're trying to differentiate yourself, especially in a sea of everybody doing the same service as you, it really comes down to the know, like, and trust, and putting yourself out there so that they can have a relationship with you before working with you and know why they should come to you before that. It's so overlooked.
Well said, Lindsay. Hey, I appreciate you being on with us today. Again, Lindsay Dowrick with The Video Artists. Check her out. Follow Lindsay on social media. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to our podcast, and you can also find us on Apple, Spotify, and all your favorite podcast locations. Thanks again, Lindsay.
Thank you.